Are you tired of being your puppy's personal chew toy? Are they constantly nipping or biting at everything that moves? Kathy here, certified dog trainer with Preventive Vet. If your puppy's nipping is driving you crazy, join me for a Puppy Essentials Nipping Workshop. These online, small group workshops will give you the tools and training you need to get your puppy's nipping under control. In under an hour, you'll learn why puppies nip, what to do to prevent nipping, how to help your puppy while they're teething, and how to train useful skills like Leave It. Plus, you'll get personalized feedback and follow-up nipping resources. Sign up today for a Puppy Essentials workshop by visiting PreventiveVet.com. I'll see you and your puppy there.
Welcome. You're listening to episode 39 of Pause and Play, the Preventive Vet podcast. We're shaking it up a little bit and bringing you a live taping from one of our recent Yappy Hours all about puppy nipping and biting. Kathy gave a great overview of training with lots of emphasis on incompatible behaviors, redirection, and counter conditioning, and then took questions from our audience. All of the videos referenced during this taping are available in the blog post for this episode. And now, let's start the show.
Welcome, everybody. Just letting everybody in from that waiting room for the first couple minutes here. And if you notice, everyone's on mute when you come in, just to help with background noise. And then if you're comfortable, feel free to get on video as well. I love to see the puppies. Hi, Christine. We've been emailing back and forth. We get to see video of your puppy today, so it should be really fun. We'll just let everyone get in here first couple minutes, and then I'll quickly go over these house rules, and then we'll dive right in talking about puppy nipping and biting today. And I recognize some names from our first Yappy Hour coming to this one too. So welcome back, and welcome to all our new attendees. I see, is that a doodle puppy? Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's a mini golden doodle.
So cute.
Oh my gosh, dogs.
Puppy in a playpen. I love playpens.
Do you want me to
Talk about those today. So I'll try to keep an eye and see if there's anyone else in the waiting room over the next couple minutes. So if I get distracted, that's what I'm doing. But I did quickly want to just go over some house rules for Yappy Hour. Please keep your mic muted in the beginning. I'm going to go over some basic nipping and biting training and behavior stuff for you guys. And then we're going to look at some video that one of our attendees, Christine, sent in that I asked if she'd be fine with sharing. And she was, to just talk about knowing what we know now after the training stuff intro. What would we do in that situation, and how can we set Milo up to not just chew everything to pieces and nip at hands and pants? He loves pants. So, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. We'll get to talk about things that you're dealing with your puppy and kind of troubleshoot as we go. Again, if you're comfortable on video, please share your video. I love seeing you guys. I love seeing the puppies and that interaction. Use the chat button. It should be at the bottom middle of the screen to ask questions. And then I will go back through those during our Q&A time. And then also just kind of unofficially poll you guys as we go too. Please just be aware of where you're taking your phone or computer while you're on video. I've seen some funny videos of things happening during Zoom meetings, so let's just be aware of that. And then I will open it up for Q&A later. So I'm going to stop sharing that screen, maybe. So first off, my name is Kathy. I am a certified dog trainer and behavior consultant with Preventive Vet. And I have been a trainer now for, 12 years. So I love puppies and puppy training. Puppy classes are some of my favorite to teach. And I know right now with all the social distancing going on, it's a little bit harder for puppy owners to get the information that they need. And so I'm so excited to be doing these Yappy Hours with everyone. So I want to jump in and talk about puppy nipping. Let me know in chat, is your puppy a crazy nipper, like all of the time? Or just sometimes, like if you notice it only when they're hungry or like right when they get up from a nap? Let me know in chat when you're noticing your dog is nipping the most, or if it's just like my dog is always a little land shark. Because it depends on the puppy. Some puppies are a little bit more nippy than others. Yep, super excited, says Taylor. Yes, playing for sure, Donna. Overtired. Yeah, they're like toddlers. Most of the time, says Eileen. So it's totally normal for puppies to nip and bite, and it can be really frustrating for us. They have about 30 super sharp little needle puppy teeth in their mouth. And starting at about 12 weeks to 16 weeks, that's when a lot of dogs start to teeth. So their adult teeth are coming in, and they get about 42 adult teeth when those are fully in. But from about 3 months to 6 months, we see a huge increase in nipping and biting because their gums are super sore. Everything's uncomfortable. So you're going to notice a lot of the time they're just trying to nip and bite on things and chew on things to, one, feel better, because that can help ease some pain and discomfort in their mouth. But then also, besides just the teething that your puppy's going through, they explore the world with their mouth. So they don't have thumbs. So if they want to pick something up and check it out and just feel it out and taste it, right, they got to use their mouth. So unfortunately, our hands, our pants, our shoes, or like all of our clothes and things, they're just like, oh, I want that. That looks fun. I'm going to put my mouth on it, right? So they're still in that age of learning what's appropriate to put their mouth on, what isn't. But for us, we have to deal with the sharp teeth that come along with that exploration. So not super fun. And then also, puppies are really playful and they play with their mouths. Does anyone here, tell me in chat, do you have more than one dog or just the one puppy? If you have more than one, let me know in chat. Because I want to know if anyone has seen their dogs in the house play with each other. Or if your puppy has like a little playmate that they've been able to like socially distance with. If you've noticed how their dog play is so much teeth on each other, right? Have you guys noticed that? A lot of people with just one puppy. Nice. It's a little easier to manage just one dog in the house. But puppy play is all about biting each other. So when dogs play together, that's normal for them to bite and growl and make all those loud noises, right? It's natural play. But they're also learning what we call bite inhibition. So how to inhibit how hard they're biting, right? Because if they bite too hard for their little playmate, that playmate's going to go, eh! Right? And they stop playing. They're like, I'm not going to play with you, right? That was too much. So the way that dogs play with each other and communicate is by learning, okay, I can bite this hard, but no harder, and it's still play. If I bite too hard, this dog is either going to stop playing with me, or in really intense situations, another dog will correct that dog and say, no way, right? Like that was too much, and so I'm going to nip you right back, and then we're done playing, right? So that's the dog-dog communication. They're learning that bite inhibition. For humans and dogs, we have to teach them bite inhibition with us is no teeth on skin, right? Or no teeth on our clothes, right? And so that's a little bit more pressure on us to get that done. Because with each other, they can touch, they can kind of gnaw on each other as long as it's not too hard. But for me, I don't like letting the puppies have any teeth on skin, even if it's by accident, right? So when we're going to talk about this in a minute, if a puppy does nip at you, what to do. But in my training protocol, I like to have the rule of any teeth on skin means no more play, no more interaction with me, right? There are some puppy owners who are okay with a little bit of teeth on skin. I personally don't prefer it. But if you are working with dogs, say in bite work sports or things like that, or even some retrieval dogs for hunting, sometimes they do use human skin to learn bite inhibition. Please let me know in chat if anyone is working on things like that. And then we can kind of chat back and forth later about how you would just tweak the training protocol for these things. But it's pretty rare to have like a hunting dog or a bite work dog in one of these yappy hours. So pack of 9, Jennifer. Nice. Love it. So first I want to talk about how to prevent your puppy from nipping and biting at you. This is the first thing I always think about with any training, any behavior issue. I think, how do I prevent it from happening, right? How do I set up the environment so that my puppy doesn't want to nip at me, right? Hi, Suki. My dog just came and stared at me. You want the other chew that's up here, I know. So when you're interacting with your puppy, think about when they get all excited and want to nip. You guys kind of wrote down in the chat box a little bit earlier, when they're overtired, right? So you kind of have an idea of when it gets worse, when they're playing, right? when they're hungry, they can get a little bit more nippy. In those moments, think about what can I have ready for my dog to use as like a shield for the nipping, right? So things like a bully stick. Bully sticks are really enticing because they smell really yummy. They taste really yummy, right? So it's a little bit more enticing than a regular toy might be. But for a lot of puppies, a regular toy might work. The thing with picking your toy for preventing nipping is it needs to be more exciting than your pants or your arm. So sometimes you have to do some work to get a toy more exciting for the puppy. Make sure it's the right size and that they really like it. So some dogs like more rope style toys. Some dogs like the squeakers. Some dogs could care less about the squeaker and they're like, your leg's moving, I'm gonna go for your leg instead. But bully sticks are a good option. One caveat with that is don't leave your puppy with edible chews unsupervised, right? I wouldn't leave a full bully stick with my puppy without me there because they can get smaller and you don't want them to swallow and choke, right? Another note about edible things is that puppy tummies are very sensitive. So just be aware that too much of anything besides their regular kibble can give them an upset tummy. So just be aware of when you're picking things for them to chew on. This is a earth animal, no hide. So this is my preferred option. I don't know if you can see that. It's a rawhide alternative. So I like this because it's easier to digest for a lot of puppies. It lasts forever. This is why my dog is staring at me because this is her high value chew. So she just keeps looking at me like, when are you going to give this to me, Mom? Do you want it? Good girl. Yeah, you take that. What she usually does is then she goes and tries to hide it somewhere and bury it somewhere in the house. So then I find it days later in her special place. So think about what you can have on hand to offer your puppy before they put their mouth on your hand or on your pants or whatever it is they're nipping at. And you're going to see in a video that Christine sent in earlier or this last weekend about moments where having that kind of shield for your puppy's nipping is really going to come in handy, because if you can prevent the nipping from happening, win for all, right? Another thing to think about to help prevent nipping is providing a lot of mental enrichment. So things like stuffed Kongs. I love these for puppies. They make different sizes, so make sure you get the correct size for your puppy. But you can stuff these with their regular kibble. You can moisten it, right, and get it all in there, super yummy. Cap it with some peanut butter. Make sure it's xylitol free. Xylitol is very toxic and sometimes in peanut butter. But you can do lots of different stuffing recipes. Again, puppy tummies are sensitive, so just be aware of what you stuff in your Kongs. But I prefer interactive toys like this for all meals for puppies. I don't like puppies eating out of regular bowls ever because, one, they eat really fast. I know Anne, who's on here, her dog Finnegan, used to just chow his food out of a bowl, and then she got an Orbeez maze ball, so she has to roll it around to get kibble out piece by piece. So one thing that's doing is it is really working their brain, right? And so then they're tired, and being tired is great for a puppy, right? So if they're tired after eating their meal, or they get a little snack in the day, something yummy in there, some carrots in there, stuff like that, then they're less likely to be like, oh, I have all this excess energy, I'm going to take it out in your hand. So you can burn that mental energy just as much as you can burn their physical energy. Sometimes exercising puppies physically is pretty hard because they're so young, and so they have like short bursts of energy for physical exercise, and then they're like, I need a nap, but then they're still kind of brain buzzed, right? So you can do a lot of mental exercises, things like short and sweet training sessions, like 2 to 3 minutes at a time, right? Really kind of work their brain to help tire them out to prevent that nipping and biting at you with that excess energy. Another thing that can really help you is, especially as they're teething, giving them something that helps soothe their gums. There are some great toys out there. I will include one in our follow-up email, but it's like a chili chew. So you basically run it under water and soak it, and then you freeze it, but it's a soft material, so it doesn't get hard in the freezer. But the nice, cool texture on their gums helps soothe that pain. So it gives them something that's really soothing for them to work on. So things like that can help. Or freezing your Kong, right? You can freeze the food in there. It takes longer to get the food out. And then that cool thing helps soothe their gums. One more thing I'm going to show you. So he's like, why do you have all my things up here? Another enrichment that helps teach them to lick instead of chew. This is a licky mat. I love this for puppies because, again, it's working their brain, and licking can help create like a calming effect for your puppy. There's some studies that show it releases some oxytocin as they're licking, so they're self-soothing is what they're doing. But because it kind of has like a no-slip backing, but if it will still slip. So what I like to do, like trainer tip, I get like a baking pan, right? And I basically stick it in, right? So that way they can't grab the edge. It's really hard to grab the edge to pull this out, run off with it, and chew on it. So that's one thing for puppies, especially chewers and nippers who like to use their teeth. They can't get it out of this very easily. And again, always supervise your puppy for things. But this, you can spread some like wet food in, or some peanut butter. You can spread that on there, low-fat yogurt, things like that. And then freezing, again, can really feel good on those sore gums from teething. So you can just get a licky mat, stick it in there. Or if anyone, if you want to DIY your own licky mat, if you have like a silicone pan trivet that like goes under pans after they come out of the oven, a lot of them are the same size as licky mats and have the same kind of textures. Just really watch your puppy, make sure they're not chewing off these little things on it. So I love the licky mat. So those are some ideas to kind of help you prevent the nipping and chewing. You have a shield ready, especially in places that you notice they're nipping the most. So you'll see in Christine's video when her daughter comes out of her room into the kitchen. That's what triggers the nipping and biting. So having a rope toy or a bully stick in her daughter's room before she opens the door and comes out, she's going to grab it and put that there, right? But if you notice a lot of nipping in the kitchen, have a toy within reach. Have something nearby all the time to offer your puppy to put in their mouth instead of you, right? Instead of your hands. We don't want you to get all scarred up and everything like that. Last thing about kind of the prevention part of this is thinking about, what do I want to train my puppy to do instead of nipping and biting? Any ideas off the bat from you guys of what would you want your puppy to do instead of nipping? Tell me in the chat. See what pops up here. And it can't, one thing, it cannot be not nip me. That's not a behavior. Lick, yep, that's good. Sit is a fantastic one, yep. So give kisses, the licking instead of nipping. Sit for greetings, yes, Karen. It's so good for so many things. Perfect. Yeah, so teaching the licking instead of nipping. Yeah, pick up a toy on his own to chew. A lot of retrievers do that naturally. It's kind of funny to see how genetics is at play, but yeah, picking something else. Yeah, Christine, so that soft biting is similar to what I was talking about earlier, where if you're okay with the bite on your skin, just at a better bite inhibition level, that's an option. So it depends on your personal comfort with that. I personally prefer to teach puppies no teeth on skin ever, like actively avoid your teeth on my skin. But again, some people are okay with a little bit more teeth on skin. So it just depends on your criteria for the behavior you're looking for. Yeah. And so that determines like what you train and when you add in consequences and things like that. So we'll talk about that in a second. So great ideas. In all honesty, teaching your puppy to kiss and lick instead of bite you is going to take a lot of work and will also be dependent on how they're maturing. So as they grow up, you should start to see that more. But it is hard for us humans to really train kisses instead of nipping at this age with a puppy because they're just like teeth all the time, right? And so and especially when they're excited, right? All that energy just comes out and they're like, I can't just lick you, I want to eat you. so you've got to think about, okay, kisses is going to be my eventual goal. And I'll talk about kind of how to build up to that in a second. But like the sits I really like, because one thing this does is it creates some space between you and the puppy. And so a lot of times when a puppy is right next to a moving hand or your moving pant leg or your shoe, ooh, something's moving and I'm going to pounce on it and bite it. But having some space, it gives you some time to prevent the nipping if it's about to happen, but then also teaches polite greetings, like someone mentioned, where sit for greetings and things like that prevents jumping from happening. So sit is a great incompatible behavior with nipping. So what you have to do, though, is you have to have some treats or a toy reward, whatever your puppy finds rewarding. You have to have those ready before they start nipping you. So as your puppy's running towards you and they're like, ooh, snap, 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 I'm going to get you. Oh, here's a treat. Hey, can you sit? And show them what you want. Once they sit, yes, good job, throw them the treat, right? And what I like to do is I actually like to throw the treat away from me so they have to get up to go get it, because then they're not right next to me. And then they're also not trying to get a treat out of my hand, which usually promotes the biting. One trick I will also do for really nippy puppies, or adult dogs too, who are really hard-mouthed, is I get like a little treat tube. This I just pulled out of like my hair products bag because it's a travel silicone bottle. But there's a lot of these out on the market for treat tubes that you can do, where you basically just put in some wet food or some squeezed cheese, some really softened, like I'll mix water with peanut butter to get it a little bit easier to squeeze. For wet dog food, you can really kind of play around with it. And I put it in there and then I squeeze it out as I need, and the puppy has to lick. And this is where you can also start teaching your puppy to lick instead of bite. So you can use something like this, because then your fingers aren't in the way, so you're not getting nipped by accident, and they're getting reinforced for licking for their treat instead of snapping at their treat, right? So investing in something like a little squeeze tube that's easily washable. That's why I like this one. I can stick it in the dishwasher before it gets stinky. Something like that will help those of you who really want to focus on lick instead of bite. The more I can make licking happen and reward it, the more my puppy will choose to do it. Versus if I give a puppy a treat like this and they're biting, they're learning to bite at it. So if you don't have a little treat tube, instead you can also offer a treat from an open palm and kind of teach them to lick for it instead of grab at it. But it takes some practice, and it depends on your puppy with how mouthy they are and things like that. What is this called again? This is just a treat tube. There's a bunch of different brands and things. So again, this is just from like a travel section at a drugstore down the street, but it will work. But they make ones that are bigger, that also have bigger openings for like thicker wet food and stuff like that. I will find some good ones and include them in the follow-up email for you guys too. So you can see what a lot of the trainers use and what we recommend for our clients as we go. Taylor, good question. The attention is not reward enough. It can be. Attention can be very rewarding for a dog, but most puppies will work harder for food. I know that I work harder for food than attention. That's me. So if you're going to pay me in pie, like I'm all about that. But if you're like, I will pay you by being like, good job, Kathy, I'd be like, cool beans, where's my pie? So think about where you're at with your training. The goal eventually is to fade out food rewards. Not totally, but fade them out and not use them as often. But food is so highly motivating for dogs that it works for almost all of them. Toy play, though, is another great thing. So if your dog really likes to chew and nip and bite at things, use that drive by using tug as a reward, right? And we'll talk about tug today too. But think about what your dog wants, what they like, what they find rewarding, and use that to your advantage. Another note about attention being a reward for your puppy is a lot of times our attention includes you're such a good puppy, that's so good, right? What are my hands doing in front of the puppy, right? So I'm reaching towards my puppy and they're like, oh, it's moving. I love you, right? So they might snap at that and nip at it just because it's fun and that's rewarding for them. So if you do use attention to reward something other than nipping, then just be aware of not enticing the nipping by moving really fast and amping them up. So really calm praise, like, oh boy, that was nice. That was very good. You want to go get your toy? That was so good, right? So trying not to move your hands a lot and things like that. But yeah, attention can definitely be a reward there. Okay, so I want to talk really quick, and then we'll get into Christine's videos and Q&A. So Maki, I hope I'm saying that right. No way of actually teaching not to nip and bite. So good question. Really quickly, I could talk about like an hour about this from the behavior and learning theory standpoint. Not doing something is not a behavior. So I can't reinforce something that's not happening, right? And with behavior, the more it's reinforced, the more it's rewarded. The more we say, yeah, I like that, you get something for that, the more they choose to do it. So that's how we train. if I don't have an alternative behavior for a dog to do and to reward for them, then it's very hard for them to learn the rules, right? To learn what's expected. So not to nip and bite needs to be something that we can see and reward, right? So it could be as simple as, I'm going to keeping your mouth closed. That's technically a behavior for a dog, but we have to be really fast on that one, right? And puppies move like this. So sitting, something more obvious for us. That's why I like to focus on alternative behaviors that are more obvious. So sit, the licking we kind of talked about, it's a little bit more precise, but a good option, or go to bed. Because especially in that 3 month to 6 months age, when they're teething and really nipping, they're going to naturally and instinctually want to do that. So there's no way to really train it out of them. They're dogs. So that's how they explore the world. So it's up to us to figure out and help them learn, what can I put my mouth on? These toys, these chews. What can I put my mouth on? These hands, right? These clothes that I'm wearing, me, right? Don't nip me. And naturally, we tend to see puppies grow out of this phase where they're just wanting to put their mouth on everything. And usually that has to do with teething ending. So I do want to talk about what to do when your puppy does nip you. Tell me in the chat, what have you been doing when your dog nips you? Stop giving attention. Good. Getting bandages. Yes. Yeah. Good, Taylor. Yep. Nope. The leave it, redirect with sit and or toy. Good. Redirect is great. Stop playing, crying. We've all been there, Donna. Yeah. Try and replace it with a toy. Put him in his cage. Yep. Start training. Leave it. Sitting down. Good. Awesome, you guys. Good, Gary. Whatever makes them pay attention in that moment, right? Yeah, so Gary has a great point. What I'm about to tell you, you might have to tweak for your dog. If a puppy nips me, I immediately freeze. And this is the hardest thing for us humans because it really hurts when they get you, right? But I freeze and I go, eh! Or ouch! Something that startles the puppy a little bit, not to scare them, but to make them go, oh. So very similar to what another dog would do in play if they bite too hard. But even if a puppy accidentally grazes my hand, I go, eh! And I freeze. The freeze is so important because if you pull your hand back, what do most puppies do? Ooh, I'm going to get it again. This is fun play. So more movement can actually amp the dog up. So play around with this with your puppy next time to see what kind of noise that's not really a word. Like, so no usually tends not to work. But something kind of startling to make them at least go, oh, and they kind of open their mouth a little bit. Once they kind of pop back and go, oh, good job. Nice job. Very good. So calm to help lower their nervous system, right? Their sympathetic nervous system is the amped up part of them. We want to lower that down, lower the energy. Also, I'm going to then calmly reach back and grab a toy to put in your mouth, right? So some puppies, that yip actually amps them up, okay? So, and that's normal. Some puppies are just like, I'm ready to rock, let's go, right? There is nothing wrong with you picking your puppy up, bitey end out away from your face, because again, they love to do this, right, at your hair and things like that, and putting them in their playpen for some nice settled down time. So it's not necessarily a punishment. It's a, you're not going to get to play with me and interact with me if you keep nipping me, right? Or if I can't interrupt that behavior when you do it, then the consequences is you lose all the fun, right? You lose my presence, okay? So there's nothing wrong with giving your puppy some settled down time in their puppy playpen, or if they're doing really well with their crate training, you can use your crate. Make sure it's still positive for them though, right? So if you know they're all nippy, give them something to do in their crate, right? Like a stuffed Kong or that chill toy to kind of chew on and work on in their crate. So they're still having a great time in their crate, but they're having a great time not nipping you. So there's nothing wrong with removing your puppy from where they are. In some cases too, it actually means it's like a bigger consequence for the puppy if you get up and leave and you're like, I'm out, bye. But sometimes I don't want to do that. Sometimes I'm like, I'm on my couch, like enjoying my time. So you have to leave, right? So just play around with that with your puppy. Especially if your puppy, if you do that loud yelp or ouch sound, they listen, good job. You offer them something else. They chew on it for a second. They're like, your hand was better. And they keep going back to that unwanted nipping behavior. That is a time to up the consequence. Okay, you get to be separated from us to just chill out for a second, right? And those don't have to be long periods of time in their playpen. What you might see is a lot of times these puppies were just tired. So they're like in their playpen and they're like, they zonk out. So then, okay, my puppy gets nippy when they're tired. But they can even just be a minute or 2 minutes, and then you can try again and see how they do. But then when you do that, make sure you're giving them lots of opportunities for not nipping, but chewing and biting other toys that aren't your hand, right? So manage that environment, like tell them that it's wrong by that yip when they hit your hand. And then if you need to increase the consequence, if they keep going for it, then they can go in their playpen for a minute, right? And then think about, how do I manage the environment to prevent them from keep nipping at me? Because it is a natural dog behavior. So it's a lot for us to handle, but if we just do some planning and some changing of our homes and things like that, we can really set the puppy and us up for success and being less frustrated with the process. So those are my tips. Terry, yes. Husband bleeds a lot because of her biting. Yes. And we have all been there. This is it's probably one of the most frustrating things with puppy training that I heard a lot from my clients in classes is the nipping, top one. And then the second one was potty training. So it's very hard for us. And it's hard because we're fighting against an instinctual drive for dogs. And that's how they interact with the world, is their mouth. So it's hard for us to sometimes be as patient as we need to be. And so we all have been there where we're just like, I'm so fed up with this and puppy's going in the pen and I'm going to go grab a drink, right? So we've all been there. Don't feel bad if you've been there or are going to be there soon. Good question, Taylor. What about when it's geared more towards guests? Yep, because she gets so excited. What I love is that you already are figuring out she's getting so excited. The overexcitement that like throws her brain into the, I have no idea what I'm doing. I lose all my impulse control. So yes, you can use that crate and playpen area as somewhere for her to be while you work on greeting guests. She can be on leash even if you have enough people in your home, someone has her on leash and is practicing sits with the treat every time, or she looks at the guest and doesn't get all bouncy. Oh, there's a treat, right? Looking at the guest nicely, treat, or sit, treat. And then that also gives you opportunity to give the guest a treat or a bully stick, something where they can then shield themselves from nipping, but then also reward good greeting behavior like sits. So that gives you just some time to manage it, for sure. Gary, potty training. We'll talk about a potty training Zoom session. I'm glad you asked. We will talk about it in a little bit because I'm super excited to announce it. Okay, I wanted to share with you guys really quick, Christine and her puppy Milo. She was nice enough to send me some video this last weekend. Knowing what you know now from what we just talked about, how to manage the environment, what to do when they do nip, I want to share some videos and then hear from you guys in the chat after each one to say, what would you do differently? And then one note here, Christine and her daughter do so many things right, and their puppy is just really amped. So, and I saw these and I laughed, and then I was like, oh, we've all been there, right? Like that puppy is a determined puppy. And some puppies are just like that. So don't feel bad, Christine. It's part of life with a puppy. But I am going to share screen here, the first one. So Milo likes to bite at Emma, Christine's daughter's pants when she comes out of her bedroom into the kitchen. Ooh, pants.
No. Sit.
So go ahead and put in chat what you would do in this situation, or what you think might work in this situation.
Milo. Hey.
So determined.
No. Leave it. No, Milo.
I love the pink pants.
Milo.
Good. I don't want your rope toy. Good, Donna.
Okay, he likes this one.
Nice. Good. So, love that video. So he loves those pants, for one. So can anyone think of something really easy that they could do in this situation? It's simpler than we might think. Sometimes we overthink this. Run. So running is actually might amp Milo up more. He's like, oh, you're running now? I will do that, right? Toss cookies or kibble. Good. Freeze. Yep. Good. You guys are totally on the right track. One thing to think about. Don't wear those pants, right? So loose fitting clothing is really fun, right? When you're moving around, it's flowy. And I learned this when I was first starting training and I was working with nipping puppies. I learned what shirts I could wear. I had like my favorite flannel shirt was just ripped up because the sleeves were like more bell-like, right? So they're flowing around and puppies like, oh, I love that. So I started to adjust what I was wearing around puppies. So loose flowing pants can entice the nipping and lunging at things. So it's that play behavior. So that's one simple thing. You can change the environment to take away that trigger for nipping. What I love is Emma in this video, she tries really hard to redirect his attention to a toy. He wanted nothing to do with that zebra. I think it was a zebra toy. Nothing to do with it. Didn't want a squeaky. The rope toy seemed to work better. So knowing that going forward with Milo, find those kinds of toys and see, okay, this is the toy that entices you. I'm going to use this as my shield. And then I'm going to have that toy ready before I walk out of my bedroom, right? So you're preemptively planning this where you're like, I have something for you, puppy, and here it is, and it's not my hand or my pants. So everyone who was like, freeze, yep, freezing can work because you're removing the play, but with wearing those pants are still moving when he's tugging on them. So it's still play, right? So think about if you freeze, does it stop the behavior? Or is it something like jeans that they're pulling on the bottom or something like that, that they're still having a great time, even if you're frozen? Having the treats to toss, great idea. You can do training for this without actually being like, sit. You can walk out of your bedroom, in Emma's case, throw a treat across the room. He runs to get it. Throws another treat across the room. He doesn't have to do anything other than not nip and bite you, but for him, it's not basically not approaching you, staying further away. That's the behavior. So this is why I like go to bed or like stay in your bed, things like that for this. I'm gonna do one more video here because we talked about the pants. So I want to show one and Christine, when she sent me these, she mentioned that she was worried some of these behaviors were more aggressive behaviors or aggression based. So I want to show you this video because sometimes it can be really hard for us to tell the difference. First note is very, 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 very rare for a puppy to be truly aggressive. If they are, in those very rare cases, it is almost always genetically based. So it's something in the genes, some wires get crossed in the breeding, whatever it is, things like that, right? Or it's what we call idiopathic. We don't know the reason, but they're so young that we know they didn't have a bad experience that caused them to act aggressively. So it's very rare for puppies to actually be aggressive, but it can be hard to tell when they are growling and being all loud when they're playing. So I'm going to share another video here to show, and then I'll kind of talk about how I know it's not aggression and more play, and then also really quickly talk about what I would do in that situation. Okay.
No, Milo, leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Milo.
The zebra again.
Toy.
I really don't like the zebra.
Leave it. Leave it. Milo. Leave it.
Pounce.
Oh. We're going again. Milo, you have a toy right here. Leave it. No. 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 No.
Oh, stuck.
Good boy. No.
Tell me in chat, does your puppy sound like that when they're playing and nipping and biting? Sometimes, yep. Yeah, the demand barks, for sure, Taylor. Play with me. Let me bite you. Yeah, so it doesn't growl, but she'll bark when she gets excited. Yeah. Sometimes the breed and breed mix kind of determine how growly they are versus barking. Sometimes it's just individual dog, a little bit with Aspen. Yeah. So vocalizing, growling, and barking, totally normal in dog play. This is an aggression in Milo's case from what I could see in that video. Again, it's a snapshot of behavior. I don't live with the dog. So this is just from that video. Is his face is really relaxed and happy. So if it was aggression based, you'd see really tight face, right? Stiff face. You'd see more of what we call a hard eye, which is like they're targeting you and they're staring you. And it kind of makes our nervous system, it like makes our hairs stand up on the back of our neck. So we're like, oh, like that's not good, right? So there's not a lot of closed mouth. The ears aren't pinned back or really far forward, like really focused. I'm not seeing the kinds of body language that match aggression, but I am seeing looser body that matches play. So even though there's a lot of that vocalizing and growling, it's paired with a loose body, kind of C-shaped spine. I look at spine position. The paws are all puppy paws, right? Even the pounce, that's a play pounce. In all honesty, play is practice fighting. So it can be hard to tell the difference. The more you guys learn dog body language, the easier it'll be for you to understand your dog's body language and what they're doing and what it means, what their intent is. So I'll include links in the follow-up email about some body language stuff, because the more you start to learn what a dog's saying with their body, the more you can figure out how to prevent bad behaviors or how to react to that situation. So good question. What about when the dog is growling and barking but wagging its tail? Wagging a tail does not mean a dog is happy all the time. Sometimes, yes. But tail wagging is very complicated. So I definitely suggest learning more about what different tail wags mean. Again, think about loose is great. Tight and stiff, not so great. So there's a lot. Like, again, a whole nother, I should do a yappy hour on tail wags. I could fill the hour. So yeah, I will include some body language stuff for everyone. So then you can kind of start to watch your dog and be like, oh, they're not so happy about that, or they're really happy about that. It's pretty interesting to learn the language. So yeah. I was lucky that I worked at a dog daycare for like 6 years. And so I got to watch dogs play together like all day. And so just that time, like you really learn a lot just watching it. So I'll include some resources, maybe some videos so you guys can see stuff. Okay, well, thank you, Christine, for sending those videos in. Those are fantastic. I want to open it up for Q&A and chat questions. What worked really well in the last Yappy Hour was, I'll kind of go back through really quick and see if I missed any questions that we didn't address somewhere. But if you type your question in chat, then I'll call you out and you can unmute yourself so we can kind of chat about it and see what to do. So I'm just going to, feel free to put any questions in chat. I'm going to go back through really quick and see if I missed anything. Yeah, Sharon says, my pup Rika loves a cloth to shake. So again, redirecting them to something that they can actually get and like release all of that nipping and biting. It's a great tip. Taylor has a question about puppy fear aggression. Go ahead, and I might be able to unmute you because you're on my screen. Unmute.
I got it.
Hi.
So my fur baby is 6 months old. Well, she's like 6.5 months old now. And we socialized her really well. She's been going to doggy daycare since she was like 3 months old. She's played in dog parks. She's met all of our family. So she's really well socialized. But just recently, this past month and a half, she's been barking at everybody. She's been trying to nip at children. She's been scared of strangers, even though she loves people and she used to jump all over them. And it seemed to happen all of a sudden. And so I read that it could be puppy fear aggression, but since it's been happening for like 6 weeks now, I don't know how to tell if she just suddenly developed aggression or if this is still puppy fear aggression and how long we should expect it to last.
But did any obvious event stick out to you around the time she started?
Yes. So my ex, her dad, was walking her and he dropped the leash on the stairs and it made a loud noise. So she bolted and slid out of her collar.
Yeah.
And ran under a building nearby and refused to come out until I like coaxed her out with toys and treats. And since then, she's been acting this way.
Yeah, that makes sense from a behavior point. So a traumatic experience. To us, it's not that traumatic. For her, it's probably really traumatic. It's a loud noise, super scary. You're gone, right? She's hiding. So natural fear response, and then that can stick with a dog. And you said she was like 5 months when that happened then?
Yeah, she was just about like 5.5 months. Yeah.
The good news is that she was technically out of what we call the imprint period. So she was out of that. It's after about 16-ish weeks. They're kind of done with the imprint period, but they can still have a traumatic experience. It can stick in their brain. So it will last as long as you let it. So you have to start work on counter conditioning, which is a big word, but it basically is doing some remedial work of, hey, that thing you see across the street, that stranger, you don't have to get close. I'm far enough away that you're not freaking out yet, but you notice it, something good's going to happen to you. So you see that stranger, treat rains from the sky, right? But you're far enough away that I'm not forcing you too close for comfort, right? Something like this, it will be really beneficial for you to connect with a trainer near you to just make sure that you get the timing down and that you can really identify her triggers for her reactivity. If you shoot me an email, I can help maybe look in your area and see if there's anyone I can refer you to, or just talk to you about what you'd want to ask them about.
Do you know how I can tell if it's like genuine aggression or if it's the puppy fear aggression?
It'll be, well, puppy fear aggression, I'm assuming you're talking about the puppy like secondary fear period.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's debate about that, about when it is and how long it lasts. But even if it is just a puppy fear period, you do still have to do the counter conditioning just to make sure it doesn't last. Because if we let them practice that fearful, aggressive behavior, they will learn that as a habit and it will become a lifelong thing. So you do the same thing either way.
Okay. So before she even starts barking, just so that I understand, I give her a treat when she
notices something that is scared her before or lately. When she notices it, yes, here's a treat.
Okay.
You see that? Yes, here's a treat. And then paired with that is you're not forcing her too close for comfort. Anytime she's pushed to the point of having that reaction, she's relearned the fearful behavior. So this is why having a trainer to like walk you through step by step and be there is the best, because it's hard to explain via Zoom. Yeah.
Well, is there anything you suggest I should do like after she's already started going wild?
I just add distance.
Okay, so just
That's what I say, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's a good question, and it's something. Leash reactivity, kind of what you're talking about, is one of my specialties. It's probably the second most common thing I work with in private training. So you're not alone.
Thank you.
Okay, great question. Thank you. So Sue, our kids play rough, fun though, with the dog, and he seems to nip, bite them mostly. Should we continue to let them play like that with him? Good question, Sue. If you want him to keep nipping and biting them, yes, you can let them continue playing that way. I personally would manage the play a little bit. So I would focus on kind of stopping it before it gets too amped up. And then also have like a toy to redirect his mouth to. So rather than your dog being like, I like nipping and biting at the kids because they're fun toys. Usually they're squeaky. Instead, the kids have a toy for me to play with. So it's still interactive play, and that's really good bonding and relationship building for kids and dogs, but it has to be teaching just manners when they're doing it and impulse control. And then Sue, if you're not already unmuted, how old are the kids?
So one's a junior in high school and one is in 8th grade.
Awesome. Yeah, so it's a little bit easier like for kids that age to handle kind of that excitement and nipping and biting versus like if it was a young child, I'd be like, right?
Yeah.
But I would really work with them to be like, hey, we don't want it to become a habit where the puppy starts doing this to other people. So we want to teach him some impulse control. So, hey, let's play with a toy instead, and then figure out at what point do we go, and stop play, or stop playing for the session and let the puppy relax with the chew instead. Think about what you want your dog to have as a habit for life. But you can still have them play.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you off, but like for my husband and I, he seems not to to do that to us because we've been redirecting him and that. We're a little more worried because of the COVID thing. We haven't had many people at the house, but when people start to come back to the house and the dog is around other people, we're a little worried he's gonna do that.
I could see him maybe doing that with similar types of people to the boys, right? That age, if they have friends over, like he sees that as, oh, well, all guys this size or this, or they move like them. Because I'm sure you probably move differently than the kids.
Right.
So he might just generalize it to certain kinds of things like that. So just have them be very aware of what they could be teaching him all around. And then again, just having another toy for him to put his mouth on is just a good redirect practice for them to practice too. And then teaching, I forgot to mention this earlier, teaching your dog to drop it is really important. I want to keep with these questions, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. You will get that in your follow-up email of how to teach your dog to drop it. But one thing I forgot to mention when we were watching those videos, when Emma was saying leave it and drop it, Milo doesn't know those things. So he kept hearing that word, nothing happened. So that word now means nothing. So if you're going to ask your puppy to drop it, which means let go of something that's in your mouth, you have to make it happen by putting a treat right in front of their face. And then once they let go, yes, good job, here's the treat, right? So there's some training that goes with that. But with the boys, Sue, you could have them practice drop it with a toy during play. And then the reward for dropping it is more play, right? So that's fun for a lot of dogs. I love using drop it and tug to teach drop it. So
thank you.
You're welcome. I know lots of people were talking about the nipping happening when their puppy's overtired or overexcited. These are kind of some of those moments. Again, your puppy's an individual, so play this by ear in your situation. If they're overexcited and it would be a lot to ask of them to stop nipping at you, that is a perfect time to be like, hey, hang out in your puppy playpen for a second while I let the guests in, right, when you're really excited, right? Or if they're overly tired, puppy playpens are awesome. So think about what is it that's triggering the nipping, and could it be that they're hungry? Is it mealtime? Okay, I'm going to put you in your playpen with your stuffed Kong with your meal in it, right? It's going to burn some energy and then also satisfy your hunger and help prevent the nipping. So think about using a management system like a pen, or if they love their crate, you can use their crate as long as it's always positive for them. You don't want them to start hating their crate because it's harder to fix. So don't feel bad managing their environment when they're getting overly excited or overtired. Christine, good question. What about using the alpha roll? The alpha roll, if anyone doesn't know what an alpha roll is, you basically roll the puppy on their back as if you were like the alpha dog in a wolf pack. Unfortunately, the alpha roll is based on outdated science. Wolf packs do not actually work like that. Also, we're not dogs. So when we alpha roll a dog, it's hard for dogs not to, what usually happens is one of two things. They get into a state called learned helplessness, which means I can't do anything about this, so I'm going to shut down, right? Which is not a great state of mind to be in. It's kind of like the state of mind I would be in if I hate roller coasters. I get really sick on roller coasters. If someone held a gun to my head and said, we're going to go on this roller coaster, I would do it, but I'm in a state of learned helplessness. So my fear of roller coasters doesn't go away. I'm actually more scared because it's now paired with this unpleasant experience, right? So it's the same idea for dogs and learned helplessness is they shut down. And then that's also how we get dogs who bite out of the blue, that truly bite out of the blue. Almost always, if we have video of a dog bite, we can tell you exactly when we knew they were going to bite before they bit. But in cases where dogs have been rolled or punished for those things, we don't see those warning signs. They go from I'm helpless to I'm going to kill you, right? So we don't want to put dogs in that state of defensive aggression. The other option, other than learned helplessness, is not becoming helpless, but instead reacting with aggression. If you're going to roll me, I'm going to bite you. So we see kind of flipping between those two depending on the dog. And And it's also just based on outdated science. The other thing is if you do it, you're putting yourself at risk of being bit because your face and your hand is really close to their mouth. So I don't do that. Good question though, because it's something that is from old school dog training, which thankfully a lot more people are following the science now, and starting to understand that dogs are different than we thought. So really good question, Christine. Taylor, what do we do to stop the demand barks? I feel disrespected. Good question. Before I dive into that, Taylor, I do, it's just about 5. I'm going to stick around for about another 10 minutes. So feel free to stick around with me, and I'll get through more questions. But don't feel bad if you need to hop off. But before you do, I did want to announce that we are starting something I'm really excited about, which goes to that potty training question Zoom, where, let's see, I'm going to share this. We are starting Puppy Essentials workshops beginning in June. Stay tuned in your follow-up email. We're going to have more information about the details, the sign-up info. And what these are, they're a little different than our Yappy Hour, and that they're a lot more one-on-one with me. So I collect a lot more information ahead of time. It's small groups that we do. So we dive deeper into your issues and troubleshoot your issues. And then we kind of bounce around the discussion with a smaller group compared to the Yappy Hour. We are going to have one on potty training because I know that's a big one for puppy owners. And then we're going to have another one on crate training. So these are actually going to be happening one each every week. And we're going to flip the times and days. So depending on your schedule, you can find one that works for you. And then we are still going to be doing Yappy Hours every month, free of charge for everyone because I love them. Those are going to be predetermined kind of broad topics. While these Puppy Essentials, we are having an introductory price of $10. And those are going to be a lot more specific to your needs as we go. So stay tuned to your email to see the sign up info and schedule for those. And then we're also going to be adding a lot of different topics to these too, depending on what you guys want to hear. But then we'll also have a survey for you guys about what else for Yappy Hour, next Yappy Hour, what you guys want to focus on when it comes to puppy and dog behavior. So definitely stay tuned for that email. Okay, let me get back to that question. Demand barking. Demand barking's tough. It's the same idea with every other behavior. What do I want my dog to do instead? And then how do I make that happen? And how do I reward it, right? So if their demand, like, okay, for example, you're playing fetch and you're holding the ball and they're barking at you like, throw the ball, throw the ball, throw the ball. If they demand bark at me, the consequence is the ball goes away. They keep barking even though they can't see the ball, I stop playing. I'm like, goodbye. Like, I'm not gonna play this game, right? But I have to think about how do I reward not barking at me? So not barking to the dog is closing their mouth, right? They close their mouth for a second, and bark, 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 they're quiet, and I go, yes, and I throw the ball. So I'm capturing that moment of quiet, and I'm marking it and rewarding it. It can be tough with barking because I swear it's like the minute you're about to be like, yeah, then they start barking again. So in that case, then I'm like, I'm not gonna play if you're barking at me. So they just learn with practice, and as long as you're consistent, and that's the hardest thing with demand barking. I saw it a lot in daycare, like with Fetch, with the group of dogs. Bark, 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 throw the ball. So hopefully that makes sense. Eileen had a good question. Any insight would help in terms of how to handle consequences?
We were putting Tucker in his crate.
There you go. Management. I like it. So when you mean consequences, you're talking about the consequences for nipping in particular?
Yeah. Especially if we take him outside to go to the bathroom or something, and if I have long pants on, he just goes after me, growling and ripping at him no matter what I do.
Yeah.
And so even giving him something else, he just ignores it sometimes and just keeps going. So I didn't know if there was anything when he bites particularly hard to really sort of change his state of mind. I didn't know. Yeah,
to kind of indicate that does not work. Like, that's not okay. Usually what I will do is I will do that, and I will, other than that, I don't really talk, but I scoop them up and they go in their playpen.
Okay. Thank you.
So, yeah, you're welcome. it depends on the puppy, because again, they might just be like, I'm outside and I'm so excited. And like you saw with the pants in the video, like the pants were way better than any other toy. So it depends on what they find exciting in that moment. But there's nothing wrong with being cool and confident and not overly frustrated, because sometimes that feeds into just that tension, and then the puppy feels it, and that's even worse. It kind of feeds each other. So if it's just, nope, we're not doing that, you're going away. And that just takes some like a few repetitions for them to be like, oh, but I wanted to play with your pants. Like, but I lose the pants if I eat the pants. But then maybe too, a bully stick might work in that situation. If you like just keep it with you and you see him about to like, ooh, pants, here's a bully stick in your mouth. Good job. Right. So kind of preemptively jumping in maybe with something a little bit more enticing. One thing with like tug toys, if bully sticks aren't working for your dog, or they stink. So some people are like, gross.
So what is a bully stick?
Technically a bully stick is bull pizzle. So I don't know if you guys can see Anne. Anne is holding one in her video. They're super yummy to dogs. It's gross to think about what they are, but they're very high value. They do make odor-free ones. So if I get bully sticks, I almost always buy odor-free. Barkworthy's, I think, has odor-free ones. But they're pretty high value because they're so stinky and yummy to dogs. So that might be a good option. But if your dog isn't into bully sticks for some random reason, or you don't want to use bully sticks, or if they make their tummy upset so you don't want to use them, some of my clients have gotten like their dog's favorite rope toy, soaked it in like low sodium chicken broth, and then let it dry out completely. Because if you think about it, you soak that thing in broth and your puppy's chewing on it, guess where all the broth's coming out, right? So that can make it a more enticing toy. But it's a little bit gross for us. So think about that. And then were those Nature Gnaws, Donna? You like those ones? Yeah, I've heard that brand's been good. So yeah, find like what kind of chew is enticing enough for your puppy and one that you are comfortable using, and good for like their tummy and things like that. Again, too much of anything for a puppy is going to upset them. So our puppy, when he's really hyper and zooming around the house, the zoomies, should we leave him in a separate room until he calms down? Depends. I mean, I love watching dogs with zoomies. I think it's hilarious. So I let them run it out. But if that is paired with, I'm going to zoom around and then I like side swipe you, right? Then that's a little much, right? So if it's getting out of control, then yes, I will interrupt it and be like, hey, here, getting your playpen. Here's something to do though, to focus all of that energy. But if you don't want them running around the house, but you still want to give them some physical exercise, things like tug with a long tug toy. You can use what's called a flirt pole, but you have to be careful with puppies because they're still growing. So you don't want to overdo the physical exercise, but flirt poles are like giant cat toys for dogs. But that can be fun and keeps your hand out of the toy zone. So that's one option, but do just be very careful with physical exercise in puppies. Their bones are still growing. Their growth plates are still open. So if they're doing a lot of jumping or like in fetch, they're landing in one spot and then turning and they do that again. Anne is showing a flirt stick. That's one of my favorites because you can make it, you can extend it. I hope you guys can see her. Yeah, so it's like a telescoping one. So yeah, it's like a giant cat toy. They're really fun. I love them. And you can, a lot of them, you can like replace the toy on the end as they go through each toy.
And this is how I taught our puppies to drop it, because they love to chase it, because dogs like to, especially ones that are more prey driven, they like to watch and grab stuff that's moving like the pants. So they're going to move and grab this as it's moving around, and you can play in the yard or in the house. And then I have my treats in my pack and I say, drop it. As soon as they let it go, they get some treats. And so it was the best way to teach drop it.
Yeah.
For us.
Yeah, I love those flirt poles. They're great.
Flirt pole. Flirt pole.
Oh, whenever I mention those to people, they're like, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, I promise, it's a dog toy. So that's what a couple of things you can do if your puppy's got the zoomies. It really depends on why they're doing it and if their bad behavior is happening at the same time. But if it's safe and you know, then I usually let them run out their zoomies. Just get that random like burst of energy, and it's hilarious to watch. I have a corgi, so it's really funny when a corgi gets the zoomies because their legs are just like running around like crazy. So. Dun, 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 dun. Perfect.
Oh, and the flirt pole that somebody asked about the flirt pole, it's just on Amazon, but Kathy will have a bunch of this stuff, all the stuff she mentioned, the chili chew and all that stuff. We'll send that to you tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely with flirt pole. I love it. Let's see. Christine, good question. Do you use a clicker or verbal marker? I love clicker training. So my dog is clicker trained, but also has a verbal marker. I have actually changed how I approach clicker training or marker training with clients when I work one-on-one with them. If they came to a group class, I would do clicker training because I had more time to really work on their clicker timing and get them comfortable with it. But when I want to start training something right away, I almost always start them on a verbal marker because it's easier for us humans. The flip side of that is it's easier for us, but it's not as precise as clicker training, but it still works. So you can go either or. Clicker training does take some practice on our part, but it's very good. Like it is impressive to see clicker trained dogs. And even with my dog, I don't bring out the clicker for her unless I'm teaching a new behavior or I'm somewhere really distracting. Because the clicker is like, I'm training now, right? So it really focuses her. But otherwise, in normal life, her marker word is yes. She looked at me, crap, I gotta get her a treat. But it's totally up to you what you want to do. If it was a perfect world, I would say do clicker training. It's fantastic, the speed at which you see things, but it is more work to learn as a human than verbal markers. But they're both great. Marker training is fantastic. So if you notice, like during this yappy hour, I was like, yes, and then a treat happens. So like, yes is the marker that what you did when you heard yes, that's what's getting you this treat, right? So yeah, both are great. Yes, bully sticks are lifesavers. Yeah, those nature gnaws. I might get you some of those, Suki. Perfect. Did I miss anything? Oh, Terry mentioned dog is a foodie, but doesn't work as a deterrent. So I'm assuming, I don't know if Terry's still on, that if you are, Terry, go ahead and so what do you think as a deterrent, like as a redirect or something?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And is it happening in any particular context? So like with guests coming in or around mealtime, is there any kind of contextual trigger that you can think of is consistent?
No, and we haven't. Unfortunately, we bought a puppy home at the worst time. She went to 4 puppy play classes and then everything stopped.
Yeah.
So, she hasn't been socialized a lot. We've been stuck at home, especially since we're seniors and have health issues. So, it hasn't been fun. Let's put it that way.
It's hard. It's very hard when you don't have the outlet for them to practice natural stuff with other dogs. It gets redirected to us, right? In your mind. So one thing that could be happening there is that the food you're trying to use as a deterrent or a redirect isn't high value enough. So compared to nipping and biting at you, which is super fun for her, the food isn't very exciting. So you could try changing the food treat reward that you're offering. So usually something stinkier or softer. It's just gross for us. And they're like, yeah, I love it. So you could try upping the value of the food treat. You could try something like a bully stick to see. I don't know if have you tried those with your puppy?
I've tried bully sticks, the yak milk bones. I've even bought the bones with the marrow in it, raw bones. And she loves them all, but it's not a deterrent.
Yeah, and it's a different kind of thing too when we think about it. It's like, it's not that chase behavior, that instinct to chase and pounce. It's not the same as like, okay, I'll chew on this bully stick, right? Like that's not as exciting. Something like the flirt pole might be a good option for you, or even like a DIY one, right? Where you have some way to get an exciting toy that's more enticing somehow than your pants or your hands or whatever it is, that's further away from you, that you could still do sitting down. So something like the extendable flirt pole or just a smaller flirt pole, to try to figure out, how do I satisfy your drive to pounce and chase and play in an appropriate way that's not me, right?
Right.
And something like that might also give you some distance so that it doesn't like, oh, I'm playing with the toy and then, oh, your pants, right? So there's some distance between the two. But don't feel bad if you need to give her time away from you, because the last thing you want is for her to keep nipping and playing with you inappropriately and learn that as a habit as she grows up.
Yes.
So when she's doing that, if the redirection's not working, play around with what you can use to redirect. Find something that's enticing to her in that moment. And if you can't, and you run out of options in that moment, she goes away for a second.
Okay.
But I think something like a flirt pole might actually be really good for that. Because if she's not motivated by food, she's motivated by chase and play in that moment. How do we give her an appropriate outlet for that? So something that's moving for her might be more exciting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see. Pupford treats. Good question, Donna. I haven't actually tried Pupford treats. So I would just do your research, see what's in them. Actually, we have a great new article about choosing dog treats. So I will include that in our follow-up email of choosing your best dog treats. It was written by a veterinarian who specializes in nutrition. So it's actually great because it helps you figure out, like, what does this label actually mean, like on the back of those treats. So yeah, it's a good question. I don't know the answer because I've never used them. My favorites are Zuke's mini treats, Zuke's Naturals, or I do the Vital Essentials freeze-dried minnows. Those are my really high value. They're freeze-dried raw. So yeah, I mean, I mix it up. The Charlie Bears from, I think, Trader Joe's is where you get Charlie Bears. Those are fantastic. They're lower calorie. There's so many treats out there, you guys. It's nuts. It's a big industry for dog treats. Okay. Wow, I could talk forever. I'm really sorry for keeping you guys this late. So I'm going to go make dinner, but thank you so much for joining me tonight, you guys. We will send out that follow-up email, and then we'll also send out like a survey to see what topics you guys want to cover in future Yappy Hours, and then also give you more information about those Puppy Essentials workshops that I'm really excited about getting in with you guys for. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. If you've got a question for Kathy that you'd like answered on one of our podcasts, send her an email at training@preventivevet.com. If you'd like to hear about our upcoming Yappy Hours, head to our website, preventivevet.com, to sign up for alerts or get notified when you sign up for the Pause and Play newsletter. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd really appreciate your rating and review so that other pet lovers can find us. Thanks again for listening, and we'll be back with another Pause and Play podcast soon.